call the meeting of the Rural Concerns to order at 4:05 p.m. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 members present here at the County Extension Office, and we have Ms. Ford online, so we have 8 total. We have a physical quorum, so we can take action and vote today if we need to on for any reason. And Mr. Baines has now joined online. Looks like so we have 2 people that are online via Zoom. And since we have 2 people by Zoom, and we've got 8 here. This also means that Mr. Salvo can vote as the alternative member at this point in time. So we also right now have 1 person guest visit with us who's on our program today, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. So I would like to start out with the approval of the agenda with a minor adjustment if you all agree to it. So Deputy Keene is here to speak with us today. He has an activity afterwards that he needs to go to as well. And I told him there's really no need for him to sit here through our old business as we go back and we discuss something. So I'd like to move new business up front unless there's an objection. So any objection? Any objection from the folks online, Dwayne or Ms. Ford?
No.
Okay. Okay, I'm not hearing anything from Dwayne, so I don't hear any objection. So can I get a motion for approval of the agenda?
Dwayne raised his hand, Mr. Chair.
Who did? Mr. Baines did?
Baines.
Okay, Dwayne. Your microphone's muted. Hey, Dwayne, can you hear us? I don't see Dwayne muting his microphone. So I don't know if he had a question or if he was saying it was okay with him that we'll go ahead.
I move the agenda be modified as presented with the new business of the old business.
Okay, is there a second to?
A second.
Okay, thank you very much. Any discussion? Any discussion from either Ms. Ford or Mr. Baines?
None.
Okay, thank you. Not hearing anything from Mr. Baines, I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So that carries unanimously. Now moving on to chair's comments, just real quickly. One is, I wonder how many of us, when we had our last meeting, thought we'd be coming back to our first meeting after election. And we had discussions with the county about it, where single member districts were approved in Alachua County. So I think that was probably a shock in the election. I think it was significant that we were asking those questions and discussing some of those issues with the county after that was put in by Representative Clemens. There was some information that's sent to you by Ken and staff, so I always want to encourage you to look at that. So there were some questions raised at the last meeting. He provided that information to committee members. So if you have any questions, please get back and get to him. And the third thing I just like to do, and everyone has a different opinion, and we're going to stay here until the business is done. But I think our meetings tend to operate smoother and are more effective if we can keep them to about 90 minutes. So that's always my goal, but if you need to be here longer, we'll stay here longer, okay? So those would be my comments, and that would move us to approval of minutes from October 18th. Have you had a chance to read?
Move October 18th minutes be approved as presented.
Okay, Mr. Hall moved that they be approved as presented. Is there a second? Second by Janet Fern. Is there any discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Alright.
All those opposed, the same sign. That motion passes unanimously. It also looks like to me, just note for the record that Mr. Baines has dropped off the online.
He's dropped off and trying to come back.
Okay, he's trying to come back.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that done, we're going to go ahead and move to the new business. Well, let me say one thing before we proceed into the business today. I really want to thank Ken. It was very, very difficult getting people to commit to be here today for an agenda. And I don't know what all the reasons are. So we went through several iterations. We probably had 3 or 4 phone calls. I don't know. So anyway, I appreciate him doing that and spending that time searching for people. And who we're going to have come up and talk to us first is Deputy Perry Coon, who's with the Alachua County Sheriff's Office, and he deals with rural law enforcement issues. And I was telling Ken, this came to my mind because I've been doing some work for the University of Miami-Dade County. They have a group like this in Miami-Dade. It's called the Ag Practices Board. They meet monthly as well. They don't report to the commission. They report to the planning department down there, or regulatory and resource economics, I guess is who they report to. But an item they have on their agenda every month they meet is a report from the deputy. That is the lead deputy with rural areas down there. And I think Deputy Coon said that he believes he was here once before, and I think I remembering, and Larry, you would probably been on the committee then too, but may have been the only 2 that still left. So we're happy to have him back, and maybe he can talk to us a little bit about what his duties and responsibilities are, and what trends and type issues is he responding to in rural areas of Alachua County. So Deputy Coon, come on up to the table if you would like. Yeah. And we'll make sure people can hear you.
I may move around if you don't mind, if it's our chair.
That's fine. That's fine.
I've been sitting long enough today. So again, my name is Perry Coon, Deputy Sheriff of the Alachua County Sheriff's Office. Been with the Sheriff's Office for 21 years. And but I've been blessed to serve in my capacity as a rural service deputy for the last 15. And what I'm here to give you today is a boots on the ground perspective of what we do for the county and the citizens. And because I'm not involved in meetings and whatnot that goes on, down the hallway in the sheriff's suite and whatnot. Save one comment that the sheriff, when I spoke with him directly when he and I first met after he took office, and that was, he shared with me that most people don't know of his agricultural background growing up in the Alachua area. We didn't go into that with great detail, but he did share that with me, that he does come from an agricultural background. And specifically, when he learned of the invitation to this meeting today, was that he wanted to emphasize how important he felt like our unit was to the county. So those things that I wanted to specifically share, that I know were things that Sheriff Watson had expressed. So that being said, currently we've got, there's 2 of us that are full-time, myself and Deputy Brandon Jones. We've both been doing this about 15 years. And we actually have, we have a 3rd full-time position in the sheriff's budget. We haven't been able to fill that 3rd position, and I'll go into that a little bit more in a minute, but essentially, if you name a scenario that has to do with agriculture or something out here, we pretty much have either the equipment or the experience to go and handle it. A lot of folks out there have my personal phone number, and we get calls directly that don't even come through, don't even go through our dispatch center. And those numbers are generally good 24/7, 365, because that's what kind of operation the sheriff's office run. That's pretty much what we run. 24/7, 365, it would be myself or Brandon. We helped somebody pick a cow up this morning. You know, that's kind of our bread and butter is livestock that is loose. As far as stuff that is trending, I know, Mr. Chair, you mentioned the meeting down south. We are actually members of the Florida Ag Crimes Intelligence Unit. And that is ag deputies like myself and Deputy Jones across the entire state. We don't have all 67 counties because not all 67 counties, even though I'm sure there's some form of ag going on in those counties, not all of them have units that are specific and specifically trained and experienced with dealing with livestock and those types of activities. But the main part of that unit is sharing intelligence. I get several bulletins a week. Here lately, down south, there's been a lot of big equipment theft and whatnot. Sometimes diesel theft and battery theft out of tractors, equipment, you know, that's out, that becomes a thing. There hasn't been anything like that lately. Around here, we've been very fortunate. There hasn't been anything like that reported, but that's what's trending down south right now, and that's pretty normal, you know, down south, because you know, Rain's going and pick this equipment up and they put it on ships, and it goes goodness knows where. You know, it's gone, and it's these big ports, Miami and you know whatnot. So as far as that trending, here's where from a boots on ground perspective that I want to share where my actual concerns are right now. We all are aware that law enforcement in the last couple of years has really took a beating nationally, as far as negative things that have happened, and in my personal opinion, that has started to result. We're starting to see the results of that now. As far as I think we've got fewer men and women joining this profession, you know, to be law enforcement. I mean, if you've seen all this negative stuff the last couple of years, why would you choose this as a career? Where that's important is, and again, I'm not down the hall in the meetings, but as my understanding is, the Alachua County Sheriff's Office has about 200 sworn deputies, you know, so 200 sworn like me that are actually, you know, certified law enforcement that are out there. A couple of weeks ago, I was told that we're down like 60 positions right now. So if my numbers are right with the 200 and the 60, then obviously that's a little over a quarter of sworn positions that we're currently down. Where that comes into my job is, you know, although I think I'm 100% necessary, you know, in what I do, the bottom line is as a sheriff's office, we still got to answer 911 calls, go to alarms, go to domestic disturbances, go to those type of things. So I know the sheriff is committed to our unit, but I could see down the road, well, you know, that's really important, but we need people to go answer 911 calls.
So could I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
I hate to interrupt. So if it had full staffing, are you saying that if a 911 call or this domestic violence or something like that came in, you wouldn't typically go unless you were the closest person, or?
Typically, no.
Okay.
Typically, no, because that is outside of, although I'm fully capable of that. And by all means, if something came out right now and I got a phone call and something was happening out here, I'd be right out there because I'm a deputy sheriff like anybody else. But if there's plenty of units to handle that situation, then we remain available, or we go follow up with whatever we've got going on, you know, whatnot. So the sheriff is working diligently right now to raise our base salary, you know, so to hopefully attract more people to come in. You know, that's the end thing of what I'm going with this. Some other larger agencies in the state, you know, they were able to raise salaries and whatnot, and we've lost people to other agencies, to bigger agencies. So we've lost people that have been 2-3 years experience, very good to go out doing their thing. And then without ties to the community, well, heck, I can go a county over and get a $10,000 raise. I mean, you can't blame folks for doing what's in the best interest of their family. But the sheriff is committed to raising that salary so that we can not lose, you know, not lose people. You know, and like I said, where it's important is with the sheriff's effort to raise salaries, we get the staffing where it needs to be, and rural services stays where it should be. And that's how they're doing what we need to do. Yes, ma'am.
Is that why you have to fill that third position, or?
We just, that's my opinion. Like I said, boots on the ground. I'm not involved in the meetings and the decision making. But if I was, I wouldn't have filled the third spot yet. You know, not when we need bodies, in other places. But like I said, and I think the sheriff commitment to us is probably the only reason that we haven't been cannibalized yet. And we did get a phone call, got a phone call about 2 weeks ago that said that we are going to be added into the rotation of covering. So it wouldn't be like it wouldn't be a permanent deal, but it would be, you know, hey, we've got the county is divided into zones, and we have a deputy assigned to each zone, you know, and that's kind of their area. Now they drift from one to the other. I need backup over here, you know, that type of thing. But as far as a patrol shift goes, you've got a deputy assigned to all these areas. So if we've got sickness, or, you know, we've had something for whatever reason, you know, somebody can't come in and we can't find somebody to fill that spot, that's where we would probably get a phone call and say, hey, can you cover this? Can you cover this today? Now, we were also told that if that were to occur, that our still primary function is going to be our regular duties, you know, dealing with the livestock and, you know, whatnot. But, you know, like I said, there you could see the obvious, you know, there might be a little bit of a delay or whatnot, but like I said, our primary focus is still going to be what we need to be doing. So that's all I really had. Like I said, that's my boots on the ground concern right now, is just, you know, our staffing. The sheriff is making efforts, you know, to get some more people here, because the fact is there's with fewer people signing up, the competition is fiercer to get these new people, you know, coming in, and we still got to get them. We still got to get them trained and training up to speed with what we need them to do before they're out on their own. I think we've got some folks in the academy class right now that are pre-hired for the sheriff's office. So efforts are being made, and you know, so like I said, that's my only, you know, real concern right now, is being, you know, at my level of things, you know, without knowing what the big picture is. That's how I see it.
Let me give you a chance to address a couple of things, and then
Yes.
we'll ask questions. So, so your bread and butter, you said, was sort of some of the livestock issues. And do you do anything in terms of illegal dumping, thefts, things along those lines? Because this committee's heard from a lot of people, primarily the main roads coming in from other counties, which we've got several, is that there's a lot of trash and illegal dumping and things along those lines. We're not typical like some others, but obviously throughout Florida's history, you know, they used to have problems with people just stop along 27 and picking oranges, and you know so
Yes.
do you get involved in those issues as well?
So normally with the trash dumping issue, our regular patrol guys will go out and handle theirs. Well, we're available if there's something that's, hey, this looks a little unusual, or this is outside, we're able to go in and console. If it's something ag related, we can come in and take over. Pretty much if you name it, we've almost been involved in it. And if it's not, we're the primary one on it, then we would handle a follow-up if it's something along those lines. No, mostly what we deal with is, like I said, we had a cow that was loose yesterday. So we go make sure that animal is contained, you know, it's safe. You know, first things first is we want to make sure that the public is, you know, people drive around, we don't have an accident or something like that. Then it goes to trying to figure out who it belongs to. Because at the end of the day, we just want to get the animal back where it belongs. So a lot of guys don't have the experience with dealing with livestock. So when you do have animals on the side of the road, they can go and make things worse with the best of intentions. And then suddenly we have an animal that's hit. A few years ago, we had, and most of you have probably been here long enough, you will remember, we had a tractor trailer haul of bulls that went off there at Newberry Road, right there where Circuit City there, Home Depot, well, it used to be Circuit City there. Went off the road, hit a tree and peeled the top of that livestock trailer like a can of sardines and exposed that upper deck. And all was kind of okay until a bull got pushed off of that upper deck. And now we have the interstate shut down and a bull running around loose. Unfortunately, they wound up, you know, shooting that bull. But prior to that, my partner got there and was able to put portable panels around the back of the trailer, so that when the next bull got pushed out, it was contained. Like I said, unfortunately, the first bull, you know, he was so worked up. I don't remember if it was the Gainesville Police Department, you know, eventually, you know, had to shoot the bull or whatnot. But all that to say, since then, now we have a portable corral system that we can go to situations like that. And we can roll that thing out and hold 80 to 100 head in a matter of 10 minutes. One person can roll that thing out when we can get there. I picked cows up in Waldo at 2 o'clock in the morning that were corralled in the median by FHP deputies and whatnot. And they had these cows, fortunately they were gentle and they just grazing right there in the median. And we rolled that corral up, got them called in the corral, brought the trailer in, hauled them off. So that's our bread and butter. But we investigate livestock abuse. Somebody's not feeding their horses, somebody's not feeding their cows. Most of those come down to an education issue, you know, and it's somebody bought 5, especially with horses, somebody bought 5 acres. Oh, I'm gonna get 3 or 4 horses. And they had no idea, because the horses were given to them, they had no idea how expensive horses are to keep and maintain. And you know, once you kind of work over the education on how many calories they need and whatnot. And then we've got an airboat now. So if we had flooding like we did a few years ago, where we needed to access pasture, we've got an airboat that we can do that. We use the airboat for search and rescue operations, you know, as well as when asked to, it was specifically bought by the county for the airboat ordinance. The airboat's running after hours. So we've got that capability now. Primarily, it's search and rescue. We have a lot of noise complaints as far as the airboats. We've got an impound when we pick up animals that we can't figure out where they belong to, that we can take those to, and then we carry house for those until we find the owner, or until such time as we have to auction those. Anytime somebody's lost in the woods, a lot of times they call us in for that. We've got 4-wheelers and we go in and help with the searches. So like I said, pretty much if it happens in Alachua County and it has to do with you know, more rural areas, woods or whatnot, then we've got some capability of going in and assisting or taking over that investigation, whatever it is.
Yes.
So obviously you have a concern that, like, you know, staffing, I feel like everybody right now has that concern.
I think so, yes. I don't think it's a law enforcement specific issue. It just, you know.
Yeah, hurting all of us, but, as far as like rural topics that you're seeing, you said that we don't have an issue with theft as much. Do you have like two top issues that you're seeing in the rural areas, or would they just be urban things that y'all are confronted with on the sheriff's department?
So I'll say this, whatever crime you have in an urban area, you have in a rural area. You're gonna have the same crimes, it's just people are more spread out and you're gonna have less of it. I do think that, right now, again, my opinion from the boots on the ground type of guy, I think that, we're seeing more violent crimes. I don't know that that's specifically a rural issue, but I do think there's more violent crimes. Now, there was, I got a phone call from Union County, part of our networking. This wasn't specifically FACIU, but they had a rash of car burglaries recently, open burglaries, that type of thing. Just yesterday, there was a rash of car burglaries here, so I shared, make sure that our detective bureau was aware of that in case there's some sort of connection. So it's always paying attention and looking for the trends. Right now, there's not a specific trend, with what we've got going on. I mean, it's all kind of, for me, it's kind of vanilla because it's kind of the same old stuff. But when it happens to you, it's, hey, this has never happened before. It can be I don't want to say you get desensitized to it, but we do see a lot of it all over the place. There's nothing right now specifically that I'm overly concerned about. Now, we are coming up on the time of year where the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. And generally our calls for loose livestock tend to pick up, so this time of year particularly, I feel like it's important for livestock owners to make sure they're checking their fences. We just had, although Ian wasn't a big deal, we had a pretty nice storm come through, last week. So that's going to be trees on the ground and whatnot, trees on fence, stuff's going to get loose. Like I said, there's no specific, crimes that are really, hitting us right now, as it pertains to us specifically.
Is there any collaboration there with like extension offices to have more of like an outreach focus to like, hey, grass is dying in November, make sure you check your fences, or this is how you check your fences, or
That I don't know.
branding?
I wish Dr. Sanders was here to answer that. So I don't know if there's not something that a program that we're specifically working with the extension office on. I mean, I've known Dr. Sanders before she was Dr. Sanders, and I've called on her many times, and then she has sent people to me who call the extension office. She just gives them my number, and so we work very closely with the extension office. That's just all part of the, it's like coming to meetings, like this. This to me is an extremely important part of what I do, is getting the message out, answering questions, letting people know that, hey, we're still here. We're still here, use us, because at the point that we're no longer useful, well, we don't need the program anymore. No.
How many?
So there are two of us full-time right now, and we do have a full-time position that's open for a third. So there's actually in the budget, there's actually three. Now we have one backup. We have one backup officer that's on our, he's currently in our traffic unit. So if myself or Brandon is unavailable, we can call on him, to come out and help with stuff. And then we just.
How do you handle vacation? Whatever.
Me and Brandon take turns. For instance, this Christmas, his wife wanted to take off the week of Christmas. So we're gonna take the week before Christmas off. That way one of us is here. It's kind of one of those things that we've done the last 15 years, is he and I coordinate and make sure somebody's available. because essentially, he and I are on call 24/7, 365, you know, so we make sure that one of us is in town. And like I said, that's just something we have done on our own, since the beginning. So that's how we handle that.
But typically, you could function better with, say, 4 people in it. Because sick time, you don't know when you're gonna get sick.
Hey, absolutely, absolutely.
And we'll get out.
The more you can have in the unit, then absolutely, the more capabilities, you know, you would have. I mean, that's I've always thought of that as a pipe dream, because I'd love to be the supervisor and have the rural unit, you know, and, I don't know that realistically, based on my experience, I don't know that staffing levels at the sheriff's office would ever, support us being able to do that, but, oh, I'd love that. Yeah, I'd absolutely love more people to divide things, but we get, we get things done. Sometimes we get busy, like I said, we're coming up on our busy time, we may have to triage things, but we'll get them done, and we're not gonna rush through something. I mean, we don't put up, when you start looking at statistics, I don't put up a lot of numbers in a unit. I mean, it's just not gonna happen, because I'm not going to this 911 call or this alarm or whatnot. I'm not gonna put up a lot of numbers. What I am gonna put up is, when I go there, it's gonna be better than it was when I left it, and it's gonna be as good as I can make it. You know, so I'm gonna spend every ounce of my training experience and every bit of time that I have to make sure that, I'm not just gonna put that cow on the fence. I'm gonna spend the next 30 minutes patching that fence. You know, because if I don't fix that fence and I wasn't able to get a hold of anybody, guess what? The cow's gonna be right back out. You know, so it's, like I said, I'd love for the unit to be that, but I honestly don't know that that's a realistic, realistic thing. I'd love for us to have 3. 3 would make it easier for, as you mentioned, taking the time off, and, you know, whatnot, you know, but we handle it. We handle it the way we always have.
So how they have the overtime, you've done your, shoot, now you gotta stay another, who knows, 8, 10, 12 hours. How
So,
does that happen?
so if I stayed over, so say if I left here and we had a cow loose out here or something, and I wound up getting an hour over my regular time, then what I would do is next week, I would just go home an hour early, you know, one day. We're always subject to callback, you know, but I would just, what we call that flex time. So I just flex that time off. Now, if I get that call 2 o'clock in the morning and I got to go to lock loose or something, then I get overtime. I'll get paid overtime for that one. But if it's during our normal business day, if we stay over a little bit, you know, we'll just take a little time off, next week. That way we keep the book track. You know, that way we keep in our hours, and we're not, you know, we don't want to abuse the system. You know, so it's and when that's just the way we do it.
Larry,
Lender assistance with repossession or equipment, agricultural equipment. Is that your department, or is that?
So that's all handled with our civil bureau. Now, we have had several discussions through the years. Now, usually it's not with equipment, usually it's livestock or something. There's a horse left on the property or something like that. And we get called in, you know, to advise on that stuff. You know, and generally speaking, what we've come up with is, if it's a repossession, you know, that livestock is property like any other, you know. So in other words, you wouldn't call me to haul the TV away if they got left, or this couch or whatnot. So generally, if it's the bank takes over the property, well, the bank's just inherited a horse. And so it's we just can't find another legal way to do it, because otherwise now the expense is on us and the taxpayer, you know, to feed and care for that horse, when it's we just haven't found a better way to do it.
What I really refer to is, if we had equipment, a tractor, hay baler,
Yep.
etc., And the bar, we have to get a reply because bar is not cooperating.
Yes,
Are you the deputy that would go, or is
it would be
that
our civil, it would be our civil, but civil calls us anytime they're not sure about something, you know, hey, how do I identify this? You know, where's the serial number on this, you know, or that and the other with equipment. We're a resource for our detectives, civil, anybody, anything ag related, we're considered the experts, you know, on it. So, I mean, it's a, you know, it's almost a jack of trades, master of none, jack of all trades, master of none, but and I had a lawyer say one time that if you know more about this topic than anyone else in the room, you're the expert in that room. You know, so we become the expert and like, so we take calls from inside the department with all kinds of stuff.
Other questions?
How many calls does the rural services unit take on? Just a week, a month, I don't know, a year? I mean, any estimate, is it 5 a week, is it 50 a week?
I could give
Just
you,
for an
oh, shoot.
Just,
It could be 3, so I work 4 days out of the week. I work on Monday through Thursday, my partner works Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then we're both on call Saturday and Sunday. And I could have 3 calls, I could have 3 calls in 4 days, or I could have 12 in 4 days. It's really, and like I said, now we're coming up on our busy time. The cow that we went and helped today, actually, that call started yesterday. Yesterday was, you know, okay, we've seen it. And then I spent about 40 minutes backtracking it. Because we had no idea what it came. We called the usual suspects and nope, not my cow, but I'll be happy to give it a home. And you know, and finally tracked it back to where it did belong. And then the owner today wound up being by himself and needed help getting it on the trailer. So we went back and helped, you know, get that animal loaded up, you know, so he could get it back where it belonged. So it's you know, so yeah, it's
I mean, I just.
no, yes. Yeah.
Talk myself,
Yep.
so.
Yeah, and I can get you exact numbers, and that's the thing, especially with like horses or something that's in a back corner somewhere, I'm not gonna see that going down the road. You know, so sometimes in a neglect issue, without folks calling, we don't have any idea. But I know Mr. Mel's got experience, knows we know how to deal with cows and whatnot. We know how to fix fence. You know, it's and that's a service that we provide, you know, at no charge. I mean, I know it's a taxpayer expense, but we get it done.
Is there any punitive for those like the usual suspects, right? 'Cause I know a lot of some livestock on the cow gets out, we'll come back.
So here's the deal. If you have livestock, at some point you're gonna have livestock. You know, so it's kind of thing. We actually there are specific statutes that allow you to go onto someone else's property to reclaim your livestock. And refusal to allow that owner to come on the property is actually a crime. You know, so there are specific statutes. So that tells me that the legislature recognizes that if you have livestock, you're gonna have loose stock. However, if we're going out there 2 or 3 times a week, you know, something like that, then there's a problem. And we've got #1 state statute that deals with loose livestock when it's on the roadways. But we also have county ordinance that deals with if my cattle get out and they're on your property, it's a violation of county ordinance. You know, we're not going to file that charge on a first trip out there. And we're not going to file that charge if, yeah, this happened, it was a year ago. We're not going to file that charge if a tree fell on the fence. You know, so it's there, but we're not going to wield that thing around like this big sword of justice, you know, because at the end of the day, we're on the side of the producer, you know, as long as you're feeding your animals and as long as your animals aren't getting out every other day, you know, to go wandering down the road. So yes, there are consequences for it, you know, but it's my discretion as to when to apply those consequences. You know, otherwise, we just want to get the animal back where it belongs and want it to stay where it belongs.
We had a cow hit the other day and months ago actually, and ended up killing the cow and had to go into our insurance. Does the county require livestock entities to hold insurance for such reasons? Or is
So-
that just a purely elective?
Yeah, I don't think that would be something that we, as far as the sheriff's office goes, that's not something we would regulate.
Okay, so
As
is that
far as what the county as a whole requires, I do not know.
okay?
Cindy may have, Dr. Sanders may have those answers, you know, but that I don't know. Obviously, carrying insurance is a good thing. Because a lot of times when an animal does get hit, that thing can be like a hot potato. It's like, not my couch,
Mhm.
you know, that one
Exactly.
didn't belong to me. You know, and at the end of the day, whoever investigates if it's a traffic crash specifically, whoever an entity works out, whether it be sheriff's office or highway patrol, who actually investigates most of our crashes in the county.
Okay,
You know, they would obviously want to know who the animal
so
belongs
it's
to
the traffic.
for insurance
wouldn't-
purposes.
Maybe a traffic.
Well, I think what would be real concerns is just, hey, make sure you're checking your fences. You know, yeah, make sure you check your fences. We actually have a database that we generated. We have a computer screen in every laptop, every patrol car that's got a map of the county, shows them where the calls are, this and that and the other. We have a database that was a product of, it was my partner's idea. He helped get it going. He didn't do all the programming, but we've got a database with icons on the map for known livestock owners. So when we have animals loose in a certain area, any one of our deputies can look on the map, zoom in, click on the icon, and immediately get the best contact numbers that we have, address contact numbers. That cuts down on a lot of time. We had one loose on Williston Road yesterday. It was yesterday or the end of last week. We had an animal loose on Williston Road. I pulled the icon up, clicked on it, saw who it was, made the phone call while I was driving down there. So it's, hey, if you're anywhere near the house, we just got a call about an animal loose and whatnot. And then we've got those out there where we just know, you know, they may not be on the map, but we just know. And, you know, we've, like I said, 50 years, we've talked to a lot of folks. We've been to a lot of farms, been to a lot of cows out, you know, so it's, you know, if I ever get something down near 241 and 103rd, I'm calling George Smith. You know, it's, you know, and that just comes with, you know, through the years, you know, going to meetings like this, we try to attend all the cattlemen's meetings, you know, whatnot, and do the same type of thing, come in and talk. You know, and that's it. So
Janet, you have a question.
Yeah, I had a couple just short questions. Is the rural area divided into zones at all? Or do you go pretty much?
we have the whole county. We have the whole county. In fact, sometimes we go into Gainesville because there's a potbelly pig running around, or goats, big
So it's
goats.
just whoever's available and maybe the closest.
A lot of times Brandon and I will go together. What we have found, we used to work opposite days. And so it was, one of us was out at a time. And then we went through a time when we started working together. And what we learned working together was, I don't have to tell him or her what I need them to do. You know, whether it's stand there, we anticipate each other, and we know how to, you know, every year I do a program for preschool kids, and I play a game with them at the end, and I'm the cowboy and they're the cows and the little bulls. And I tell them when I start my presentation is, I got a secret to tell you. I know how to talk to cows. And there's a language. There's a language. It's body language. It's how I move and whatnot. And when Brandon and I get out with a loose animal, we get out and we don't get that animal worked up. I mean, we move in such a way that we tell that animal what we want that animal to do. You know, so all that to say that we learned, we got to really appreciate the fact that, the two of us working together, is a lot safer. It's a lot safer for us. You know, it is highly specialized. I mean, when you work with large animals, it's inherently dangerous. You know, so, you know, it's been a huge benefit.
So let me ask, Jeannie or Dwayne, do you, either one of you have a question? And I would like to sort of call this to a close for Deputy Coons.
I'm getting on, it's 90 minutes.
He's got something very important to do. He's coaching his son's baseball game. So he's going to get him on the road. Jeannie,
Well,
Dwayne,
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say, great presentation. I didn't know about, the sheriff had that, program. And I think the land conservation will probably.
well, it looks like Dwayne may be trying to talk, but we're not hearing him at all.
Right, yeah.
Hello?
Okay. Speak up as
Hello?
much as you can. Yes, we can hear you, Dwayne.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to say that it was a great presentation. I didn't know that, the sheriff office even had this program. And I thank you for your service. And I think other boards probably would like to know more about this, like the land conservation as well. So thank you for your service.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dwayne.
And Jeannie, if you
Yeah,
got
thank you so much. No,
Thank you.
no, it was a great presentation and thank you so much.
Okay, well, if there's nothing really pressing, we'll let Deputy Coon go. But I told him we might occasionally ask him to come back and tell us what's going on if these things change. So we'll let him go ahead and go. I do want to go back and trying to get him on as early as possible. I didn't give Ken a chance to say something about the attendance report if you would like.
Okay. So I put up on the screen. So nobody's in immediate jeopardy of any violations. So we always print the attendance policy at the bottom. Attendance is defined as being present for an hour or 50% of the length of the meeting, whichever is short. So everybody understands that. That's any regular member or alternate members' attendance is less than 50% of the last 6 consecutive meetings. It's automatically removed. So that's the requirement to watch for. So nobody's currently in jeopardy today.
Okay. And I also wanted to go back. I skipped over one thing on the chair's report. How many of you knew that this week is Farm City Week? It's Farm City Week from the 16th through the 23rd. And it's supposed to be the celebration of the cooperation between people in ag and rural areas and the city folks and the benefits that come out of it. It looked to me, and I wish Cindy was here, I hope she'd give us an update. It looked to me like the extension office had a farm tour again this year on the 4th of November. Anybody know about that? Okay. Anybody know about the Agriculture and Food Festival at the Cave Museum this Saturday? They're having it at the Cave Museum. I think it's Alachua County Farm Bureau of Young Farmers and Ranchers that maybe put it on. We'll have some people there in agriculture. I think they'll probably have some small livestock there. They'll have food trucks there. They'll have local produce you can buy. And they also, anybody that comes to it gets free admission to the cave that day. But the thing that was interesting is I think last year may have been one of the first times they had about 2,000 people show up. And obviously it's a great opportunity if you've got children and stuff like that. But I just get the feeling that there's a lot of stuff that we just don't know about. It doesn't appear in the paper unless you're hunting in through Scene magazine or something. You'll never, ever know it. So I tried to look at the county website real quickly and see if there was a Farm City Week proclamation, which is sort of common. I didn't see that there was one. I know that the county, I thought, and the State Farm Bureau, I guess it was maybe the State Farm Bureau in cooperation, maybe with the Kiwanis Club in town, used to have a farm city, week luncheon. And a lot of the city and county staff will be there, for those things. But somehow I think there's a lot of stuff going on we aren't aware of. And it would be nice if we could be aware of it. We'll ask Cindy and maybe the group can get, hooked up a little bit closer with, like, if they're having that farm tour. Now, that wasn't a free event, but that's another discussion we could maybe have with them if they're the sponsor. But I just happened to stumble across this agriculture and food event at the Cade Museum this Saturday, 10 to 4. And it's all free, and they'll have vendors, they'll have animals. You go to the museum and there'll be some produce available for by food trucks. So anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out.
Yeah, I think the only reason I knew about the farm tour was in email, I get from the extension. And you're right, it's not free.
Yeah,
And there
not-
is, sorry
Yeah.
about that, sorry.
Go ahead, Dwayne.
I was just gonna ask, like, where would I find that information, like, about the event you was just talking about?
It is on their
Like, is
website.
there a website for it, or?
The Cade Museum event, the event is on their website. If you just browse to their calendar, you can click on it for Saturday. It's from 10 to 4.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, we just need to make sure we're aware of stuff like that. So it's time to move on to old business. So first item there is a staff update on the amendment to the Alachua County Unified Land Development.
So, just briefly, Mr. Chair, because the committee just asked, stay updated on this item. I'll see if I can share. I'm on Zoom screen that shows the ordinance language is adopted. So the committee originally saw this in their August meeting, and they gave some recommendations to staff that were incorporated. That went to the first public hearing in September to the county commission. It was approved at that public hearing with those recommended changes, and there was documentation of the real concerns changes that the board saw. So they saw what the committee recommended and their general motion of approval. Then it had a second public hearing in October that was unchanged from the September public hearing, and the committee saw that unchanged language before that second public hearing. So it was adopted in October. The county commission public hearing on October 25th. So the farm stay, the small scale overnight stays in the rural area up to 5 units on a property. So if anybody has any questions about that, that's the status.
So we had some input into that. They listened, came back, and we got it again. So I think it's just good that we at least got the comment, and they appeared to listen on some things, and that was a accomplishment of it. And then I think any questions on that about the farm stay? So we had input, and the county is active on it now. Not hearing any other comments. Then the second thing was, yes, Mr.
I have a question about that.
Sure.
Farm state.
Sure.
I read some of it, but I don't have a full understanding of it. So someone explain it to me.
Right. So it was a months-long process that got to this, but essentially it was looking for a way to allow these small scale overnight stays on farm, on rural properties, on agricultural zone properties mainly. In lieu of in lieu of things like there's a bed and breakfast option now, just was looking at having more of these individual units, whether it's RVs or cabins or camping and things like that. And so it's limited to 5,
4, isn't it?
4,
Yeah.
less than 5, sorry. Less than 5. Once it gets to 5, then it becomes a different classification of regulation where it's state regulated. But this is just a local option to have these up to 4 units on property. So it was a way to enable property owners to be able to offer this on property in a small scale.
Well, but the other thing it added some of the stuff related to water and sewage on that. The road has to meet standards. So if there was emergency need to go down there, that was part of it. And then the other thing they did is they limited the number of days any person could stay in a unit in a 1-year time period. So it can't be year round.
What about ag events?
Ag events,
Yes.
I think that's addressed in another area, but this could be, if you were having an ag event and you met all these other conditions of this, where you could have the 4 sites. You could have the four units where people stay overnight, but it maximizes this at 6 people per unit, right? I think it is.
Yeah.
6 people per unit. So, couldn't have more than 24 people in the four units. They have to have 50 square feet apiece. So you have to have, if you had 6, you'd have to have 300 square feet cabins or something like that. You'd have to have the sewer and water situation, either collectively or for individual sites. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Not really.
Are you asking about agritourism and agriculture, things like that? Yeah, that's
Because in the past, we've been able to visit other states, Georgia, Louisiana, North Carolina, South Carolina, and ag events. And many of the participants have trailers that, accommodate the horses, they sleep in them, and they're able to stay overnight on these ag sites. This is what I'm talking about. So we can't accommodate them here with the same setup because we don't have that, permission to do that, because we might have a couple thousand people here on an ag event. And this is what I understand what you're saying, but this tends to do with commercial stuff. But I'm talking about ag events on ag property under the Florida agritourism law, so to speak.
right. Yeah, I'd have to look at that. I'm not sure.
It's not on a permanent, it might be 1 or 2 nights. But that's what I'm talking.
Yeah, and I think this is a separate.
This is definitely separate than that.
Yeah.
This is a very small scale type operation.
And something like this, it wouldn't happen maybe once or twice a year. So. And another part, and another thing that I would like to throw in, say when the University of Florida is having events, usually people can't buy accommodations, they gotta go to Tallahassee, Orlando. If something would be, it would be permitted to utilize the ag property for a mobile home or a net. To me, this would add, it would keep money in the area. It would allow them to be close to the function that they're participating in. It would also give the small farmers, the opportunity to make a couple.
So
bucks.
just
That's
does
kind of
allow
what this is, yeah.
does allow
Yeah.
this. The only condition is you're limited to 4 units and it has to meet the requirements on space and having access to sewer and.
Yeah, but I think this is different. I think there is something that monitors this countywide because that's what you have. Every game day. They turn half of campus into an RV. So my guess is there is something on the books about RVs in Alachua County for temporary non-RV park setups. Because they're not areas that obviously have RV hookups or public restrooms or anything like that, but they are limited to 2 or 3 nights maximum. I obviously do not know the kind of code well enough to know where that is, but I assume there's something in the books.
Or city or.
Yeah, I think that UF is kind of exempt from county. And then secondly, I think that this was maybe the county's effort towards balancing income for small producers by having farm stays as part of agritourism. And also trying to get it so that I know a lot of people who are speculating on land just for agritourism, and they're essentially developing those rural parcels into non-bona fide land just for visitation purposes. And so I think that the temporary thing must be covered some other way, but a lot of people are, I just visited a farm a couple of weeks ago where their revenue for their cheese business was just as much as their Airbnbs. They had like 3 Airbnbs and they were making just as much money. So I think that the scale at which this was like settled on was to try and balance that, making sure that people are actually using ag land as ag land, but then also allowing them to have a different revenue stream. And then having regulations to make sure they weren't like overdoing it.
Yeah, there's things like temporary sales events and temporary seasonal events that happen, like say for a weekend or something like that. They get a special event permit, and that ensures that they've been inspected for fire safety and those types of things. The weekend.
Is this something we could get, when we planning and zoning, would that be the area that we asked to provide us that information?
Yeah.
I think there's places like the Waldo that do it too, like around the flea market areas and the motocross area that does different things like that.
But this only, like, most county regulations only applies in the
Unincorporated.
So
So you
things
get
in the city of Gainesville and you have that's
a different, so municipalities are different. So, that's in Waldo, Waldo can have different rules than this. I would have to look.
yes.
So, okay, but Ken, you're gonna follow up and try to bring back some of this information.
Yeah.
But one of the concepts behind this was, if there was a football game and you did want to stay in the parking lots where the others do, you could have 4 sites, people could stay there for those 2 nights or whatever. So it's sort of around that. Okay, I don't see any other questions on that. So special districts, Kim, were you gonna say anything? Well, I guess you're gonna go ahead and talk about the ordinance and what happened, but you did send a presentation that Ramon made so that all of us have.
Yeah, and again, this was something that came up in the last meeting when there was the roads discussion. This is the idea of having all new subdivisions in the county would be required to have this special improvement district that essentially would assess the residents for the maintenance of their roads rather than the county taking on that financial responsibility. The county would still maintain them, but funding would come from the residents of that specific subdivision. So that was adopted on October 25th. So it would at least eliminate the additional financial burden of each of these new subdivisions.
Well, then also the wild spaces, public places did pass.
Yes.
Right, so I think based on what Ramon told us, that will be $17 million that will.
Right. So that will all be part of that new.
In some ways, they drop in the bucket, but a much bigger drop than previous. Based on what he told us.
Would like to take a look at that a year from now, and see if that's actually happening.
Well, the thing that's always interesting, and it's gonna be different, so we haven't talked a lot in the change in the election of the county commissioners. But each of you now will vote for one commissioner only every 4 years. It used to be you voted for 2 commissioners, 2 years, and 3 the other 2 years. But all it takes is a change in the balance of that commission, change in people. If they no longer support it, that's not locked into that use. So, it's a short-term thing.
But we've looked at the district allocation where the population is. And until they redistrict, population is still Gainesville University downtown area that can elect any county commission.
Yeah, and the only thing personally that's frustrating to me is I've never quite understood, we changed the allocation, which is gonna be based on both road miles and trips, just not trips. And that was supposed to be a more favorable allocation to people who made fewer trips, but rode longer distances, which would have been to the rural areas. And it would include those unpaved roads that you were talking about, Juan. But the bottom line is, I've never really seen anybody explain that and show me what difference that made. And we've talked about this with them about 3 times now. So it's a little frustrating on that, but that's what it is. Any other questions on that? If not, we'll move to the committee discussion of interest and direction on potential economic impact study, which we talked about several times. I'm not sure if we're going to solve this today. I'm not sure. We know Ken sent out quite a bit of stuff, or Regina did, in preparation for this meeting. So Ken, do you just want to start off on this and provide feedback?
Well, and we've been in touch with Dr. Ford. From UF, and we sent an email from her that hopefully she'll be available after the new year to come to the committee. But the idea was that today you've gotten, I think you have a hard copy. There's a couple of agricultural fact sheets. But just to give you an idea of what's out there now, the kind of thing that's been looked at in the past, just to see if is this what the committee is thinking about updating, or is there other types of analysis that you're interested in, so that when Dr. Ford comes, that maybe the committee can start to give her an idea of what they're interested in investigating about the economic impacts of agriculture in Alachua County. Is it along the lines of these types of data, or is it a finer grained analysis of some aspect? That this was just an opportunity for the committee to start to think about that.
So can you pull up that fact sheet? That
This
she
one?
as an example. I don't care one of them.
This one doesn't, the other one's a little bit better.
I think also if there was a disclaimer that if you wanted to dig down into more stratified results, that the accuracy may not be reflected. I think I saw that somewhere.
And then the sense of agriculture, there's been 2 since that one. There's one in 17 and there's one this year. So at the very least, maybe try to update.
Yeah, which won't come out until, we won't see the data from that 22 census until 23 or 24, at least 23.
And I looked at NASS last night, and the 2017 data was not available. Or I guess, I'm sorry, yeah, the 2020 data was not. There were certain components that were available for 2017, but yeah, it seems like for me, when I was thinking about economic impact, I think that slightly more granular level would be ideal only in trying to identify areas where agricultural production and revenue is happening right now in order to strategically try and develop those areas as, I mean, obviously they are ag lands, but I think that there are a lot of services the county is trying to bolster to make sure that that land stays that way or is even like enriched in the way that it's able to produce and how it's able to deliver the product to potentially local economy. But it's really hard to get that data all the time, if at all.
Right, so that sounds like some sort of locally gathered data that you would find in the ag census.
Jordan, let me, go ahead.
So would it be possible to hear from either like the Chamber of Commerce or the Department of Economic Development, the county, I see, Department of Economic Development or something like that, to see how they perceive the rural economy of Alachua County? For like people who know economic development and who are working in it locally, how they perceive the rural economy. If it really is this big of an impact, they don't talk about it like it's this big of an impact, and that's something we need to have influence on. Kind of know where our baseline is outside of it.
I think it is, I mean, Sean McLean is another one that would come.
Well, we tried to get him for this meeting,
Yeah.
but he couldn't come.
It's
But
easy.
I think that's one of the things we're gonna struggle with is perspective. So, unfortunately, for you, I dabbled in this area. I still dabble in this area. So to me, there's two different things, that I'm interested in. I'm interested in what the farm and rural areas look like. So I'm looking about, the proportion of agricultural land. And if we got something on the proportion of tax paid versus services demanded. There's things like that. But then Dr. Court and Dr. Hodges, who did this previously, they also went beyond just the farm, but they did the farm and food system. So I think some of those numbers that look like to me in that there's a mixture between the farm and food system. And that's okay, but you got to keep them separate and make sure that people know what they're talking about. And then the problem with studies like this, they don't give you all the other attributes. So like the wildlife, the conservation, the water issues in terms of flooding protection, there's all kinds of things. But then I also, and I think Ken will verify this, I asked, where does this all fit into Alachua County's economic development?
That would be my question, is how Alachua County Economic Development sees us currently, or how the Chamber of Commerce sees us, just how the business people who are, not up like I am all day, every day outside of our little bubble, are they advocating for it? Do they just kind of see this as a thing that's out there outside of the city limits? Is it like a big thing for them or not really?
I agree. I think that perspective would potentially be more helpful. Looking at, we have the Florida fact sheet, and there's kind of this like ag provides 40,000 jobs and generates $60 million, but we compare that to really a lot of other industries. It's not that much. And then like, why is it that just trying to ask some questions and maybe link those numbers to policy or advocacy that the group could potentially do to serve those areas as ag or as rural.
I also personally think it would sort of be important. So we know that they're working on this small scale slaughterhouse and some of these other things. Well, that's an allied result of an industry and a segment of the market that isn't being served that they think they can build on. So it's not gonna be like the medical system in Florida or in Gainesville, which is huge. And a lot of that comes in. The other thing I think that's missing from a lot of the analysis is that, and I don't want to get too technical, that in the economy, there's two types of industries. There's the basic industries and there's service industries. And service industries are typically the ones that are used by the local folks. Okay, so I live here, I go eat at the local restaurant. Okay, but where the size of your economy grows is the goods you export and you bring the money back in. And agriculture is always way up on that. Now, it doesn't help in Alachua County because Shands is a 7-state, North Florida regional, 16 counties, you know, so there's a lot of big areas. But I think one of the benefits that ag brings to any community is that much of what they produce is sold outside of here and it brings new dollars back in, and that's what makes the economy. And I don't think it gets captured in some of these documents. Personally, that's my.
I guess if nothing else, if we drag it up to one of our meetings, then, no, we're here.
Does the county, I know the city has like economic development committee, does the county have something like that?
That has an economic development group.
They have an economic development advisory.
Is there a way you can do something joint with them to see kind of the things they're looking at, and then if it is somehow mixes with what we're looking at, how they see us? We can look into.
So other input on that, Dwayne or Jeannie, do you have input on that? Dwayne, your hand's up.
Oh, no, I didn't intend to raise my hand, but I don't have any.
Well, your hand's
comments
up on the screen that can show it, but it's not up on my screen. But
I don't know, maybe it was from the first time when I had my hand up, I couldn't, for some reason, it wouldn't let me talk. I had to go out and come back in, so I don't know what it was doing. But yeah, with that, far as just I'm just surprised that we don't get in that any of that meat, like you say, far as the livestock, it goes all out. And I know, like, with these tough times, we definitely gonna have to, look for our own sources of food.
okay, so is it okay with the group then, based on the feedback you've given us today, that I try to work with Ken and the other staff and get this planned for a future meeting and maybe get an economic development group, get Sean back in and ask where it all fits in the development of Alachua County going in the future. Because I think everybody wonders, if you've lived around here long enough, I'm sure Larry can remember, but up at 75th Street and Newberry Road, I can remember when that was agriculture. That was a plot there. And if you drive up and down Archer Road now, there's a lot of pasture area primarily, but there was some wood and stuff and it's gone now.
But it seems to me that the county and the city was making more laws that they was kind of against agriculture. To me, it's almost like they was anti-agriculture of, far as like the acreage and, what you can have written off and stuff like that. Cause I know, we talked about that a little bit on the land conservation board. And so I don't know, far as like, what are the rules and the different type of programs that used to help farmers, to allow them to have that leeway. I know there's different grants and programs out there, but it don't get advertised that much.
Okay.
But I think that would be good to bring them back again. Yeah, I think that would be good.
Okay, so I'll work with Ken and the staff and we'll try to get more people out here and see if we can better define and see what we're interested in. So.
I can tell you from a legal perspective that FCA, which is our regulator on credit, are going to be looking heavily at environmental governance this year. That's one of their big focuses is more environmental issues on farmers. Looking at the environment, how we're treating the environment is one of the issues. That's going to be part of the environment.
Okay, James, do you have
I
something?
I did, I was wondering, do you know what that weird bump in the 2010 data shows?
So I don't think it's 2010. If you look at the ag census in Florida, and there's some people has raised concerns. From the 2007 census of agriculture to 2012, there was a huge bump in farms, categories, sales, the whole 9 yards, and then there was a drop off. So I can tell you that many counties in Florida question that. But the National Ag Statistics Service is one who conducts the census, and they have a very, very rigorous program on us, and with statisticians who do it, and there's errors and sample sizes in there. But I think there's a gut feeling from some places in Florida that there was an overcount in some way. Properties, and then the standard error was probably on the extreme. So you're going along, you get that bump, and you get the fall back down all of a sudden in 2017. So 12 has been an anomaly. If that's what you're referring to on the census data, but on Florida, in some Florida counties, they were showing the number of farms, and of course that's small and large. They were increasing as much from 2007 to 12 as 25%. And then the next census, they dropped off 18% or something, you know, so. Any other things we ought to discuss while we're here today? Because we're going to take next month off. We'll try to have a program plan for January around some of the issues that we talked about today. Otherwise, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Been moved, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.